Police authority in Israel has confirmed that not less than 19 persons sustained injuries when Hezbollah fired drones into Sharon area in Israel on Saturday morning, with residents reporting more attacks from the Lebanese fighters since dawn. Unconfirmed reports indicated that the Hezbollah fighters attacked 5 important bases in Tel Aviv and Haifa on Saturday morning, while Israel Defense Forces (IDF) says Hezbollah fired 3 projectiles from Lebanon into central Israel. An Israeli resident posted on his X social media profile that 7 people injured tonight when a rocket launched from Lebanon hit the town of Tyre. Even with significantly degraded capabilities, Hezbollah can still cause harm. This only strengthens our resolve. During the week, an Israeli resident posted on his X social media page, and as reposted by the Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs, said, 5 citizens were murdered this morning by direct fire from Hezbollah towards the Israeli town of Metula, including an Israeli farmer and 4 foreign workers. I send my condolences to the families. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres did not bother to condemn Hezbollah or call for sanctions against them. He is only busy attacking Israel and appeasing terrorist organizations and the Iranian axis of evil that calls for its destruction. Guterres and the UN have long lost their compass and conscience. We will continue to fight until all residents of the North can safely return to their homes. According to police, all 19 people injured from Hezbollah drone strike on Saturday included 4 of whom were in moderate condition, but they were taken to hospitals for treatment. Israel's Magen David Adom (MDA) emergency medical service had earlier said that several people had been wounded in a strike on the central city of Tyre, including a male around 20 with shrapnel injuries. Videos posted by the Israeli Foreign Ministry on social media as reported by news networks showed fire and smoke spilling from a building into the streets and emergency responders swarming the site. This is the result of a direct hit of a Hezbollah rocket on a building in the Israeli Arab town of Tyre, injuring 19 civilians, the ministry said in the post. We cannot and will not rest until Hezbollah is dismantled, it added. The Israeli army said on Telegram that it had intercepted some of the 3 projectiles fired from Lebanon. Tyre, a predominantly Arab town, is located around 25 kilometers, 15 miles, northeast of Tel Aviv, near the border with the occupied West Bank. The war raging in the Gaza Strip has spread to Lebanon, where Israel has been carrying out airstrikes against Hezbollah, an ally of Hamas, with Israel paying more focus on Lebanon in September 2024, killing top Hezbollah leaders. On Thursday, rocket fire from Lebanon killed 7 people in Metula, northern Israel, including 4 Thai farmers. Hezbollah in a statement claimed responsibility for a rocket attack targeting Israel's Glilot base, a home to about 8,200 military intelligence units in Tel Aviv. It was gathered that 3 rockets were fired from Lebanon towards central Israel at 2:30 a.m. local time. The Israel Defense Forces (IDF) confirmed the overnight launch from Lebanese territory. The attack damaged a home in Tyre, where resident Qasim Mohab described the immediate aftermath. We went out and saw dust, children screaming, women screaming, and everyone went to the house that was struck, according to Reuters report. We were able to evacuate and rescue those who were inside the house, and thank God we were blessed that there was no one killed. Israel's ambulance service reported that the injuries resulted from shrapnel, while air raid sirens continued to blare across northern Israel amid ongoing rocket fire from Lebanon. Meanwhile, Israel Defense Forces (IDF) in a press release posted on its social media said, Hezbollah commanders responsible for firing 400-plus projectiles toward Israel in October were eliminated. Yesterday, the IDF struck in the area of Tyre and eliminated 2 terrorists. Musa al-Din, the commander of Hezbollah's forces in the coastal sector. Hassan Majid Daib, Hezbollah's artillery commander in the coastal sector, who was responsible for the projectile fire toward the Haifa Bay on Thursday. These Hezbollah terrorists were responsible for firing over 400 projectiles at Israel over the last month alone, IDF said. In a related development, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has vowed to attack Iran again as the Mossad identifies an attack from Iran that will be carried out from Iraq against Jerusalem, according to reports from local media. Iranian regime could be preparing an attack on Israel from Iraq according to intelligence sources. The action could take place before the US election. Israel has received intelligence suggesting a possible Iran attack from Iraq. Tehran would be planning to use pro-Iranian militias, drones and ballistic missiles from Iraqi soil. Tensions between Israel and Iran have intensified in recent weeks with a series of hostile exchanges. According to sources, Iran's plan would be to launch the attack from Iraq by pro-Iranian militias, using a significant arsenal of drones and ballistic missiles. Nigeria Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, has reacted to the grievances of Nigerians over the terrible, malnourished and apparently dying-looking manner of minors among protesters who were arraigned for treason for protesting against hunger and bad governance in the country by flying Russia flags among other activities to express their displeasure against the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, saying, "The 6 minors who fainted in court on Friday faked the incident," adding, "The police force take care of suspects' welfare in their custody." Olumuyiwa Adejobi, the force public relations officer, in a news release on Saturday, said, "The fainting of the minors in court on Friday were scripted but kept mum on the terrible situation where bones of some of the arraigned protesters were visible to the eyes as if the minors were living skeletons after spending more than 3 months in police custody." According to the police, the Nigeria Police Force (NPF) has recently arraigned 76 individuals in court on charges including terrorism, arson, and treasonable felony. These serious allegations encompass offenses such as the destruction of public property and threats to national security. In managing the detention and arraignment of these suspects, the NPF has rigorously adhered to legal provisions to ensure fairness and accountability under the rule of law. The suspects were initially presented in court, where they were formally charged, and a remand order was issued by the court. Throughout this process, the police have worked to balance justice with compassion, ensuring that each suspect's basic rights and privileges are respected, including access to medical care and other necessary provisions. Today, an unexpected incident in court saw 6 of the suspects suddenly rush out and faint, drawing media attention in a deliberate and scripted manner to draw negative attention. Medical aid was promptly provided to these individuals, demonstrating the police force's commitment to the welfare of those in its custody, irrespective of the allegations they face. While committed to upholding justice, the Nigeria Police Force remains sensitive to the rights of all individuals, including young persons. Under Nigerian law, individuals who have reached the age of criminal responsibility are answerable for their actions, regardless of their age. This principle aligns with global practices, where accountability is upheld for young individuals who commit serious offenses. As seen in other jurisdictions, including the United Kingdom, age does not exempt individuals from facing legal consequences. However, each case is approached with empathy and in accordance with human rights standards. The NPF acknowledges public interest in this case and assures the public that our officers will maintain professionalism throughout the legal process. The public is encouraged to view this case without undue bias, as the force remains focused on a transparent pursuit of justice. The Nigeria Police Force is committed to aligning with best practices, upholding both the rule of law and respect for human dignity. Nigeria Police Force, NPF, under the leadership of Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Egbetokun has confirmed that unspecified numbers of minors or children below the constitutional age of 18 years are among the large numbers of protesters the federal government led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is currently trying for treason after they were arrested and detained since August 2024 for protesting against hunger and bad governance in Nigeria, with some of them sewing and waving Russia flags to express their grievances or opinions against the government and life-threatening economic situation in the West Africa country. The IGP, speaking through the first public relations officer, Olumiwa Adejobi, on Friday in an interview with private television station in Nigeria, Channels Television, said the least among the protesters arraigned was 13 years old, adding that children below 18 years of age can be arrested and prosecuted for criminal offense as far as they are not less than 7 years old. Once you are more than 7 years old, you can be charged to court. None of them is less than 7. The fact that you are 13 years old does not mean you can't be charged to court, Olumiwa Adejobi stated. Olumiwa added that the children were arraigned for violent protests and flying Russia flags in Nigeria, an allegation that has been disputed by many people in the society on the ground that many hotels and companies hoist foreign flags in Nigeria. Some observers said flying foreign flags in a country can only become a crime if the country is in war with the country the hoisted flag or flags symbolically hold allegiance to. Then the person or persons can be seen as enemy or enemies of his own country working against his own country, which is treasonable. We are not aware if Nigeria is in war with Russia, and the action of the protesters were mere expression of their feelings or opinions. And the police is yet to state if the protesters matched action with words in the course of their investigation. The police authorities' confirmation that minors are among the protesters arraigned for treason over the end bad governance protest in August 2024 in Nigeria contradicted the statement made by the federal government prosecution counsel, who had, during interview with newsmen on Friday at the court premises, claimed that all the suspects were adults and the little children seen around them were their relatives. Meanwhile, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, has stepped into the legal proceedings surrounding the recent arraignment of the end bad governance protesters by directing the Nigeria Police Force to transfer the case file to his office for review. The protest, which culminated in multiple arrests, saw suspects arraigned in court on charges of treason and others, according to Punch newspaper. Fagbemi, in a statement on Friday, said the move was prompted by the need to examine the case more closely before taking any further action. There are some issues my office will need to look into regarding the matter to enable me to take an informed decision, Fagbemi said. The court had remanded the defendants in various detention centers and set a hearing date for January. Fagbemi acknowledged the court's authority in the matter, emphasizing, "It is not within my power to vary the order of the court remanding the defendants in detention centers and adjourning the case to January." To expedite proceedings, however, the AGF announced plans to request for an earlier hearing. "I have directed the Nigeria Police to transfer the case file to my office and hand over the same to the Director of Public Prosecution of the Federation, DPPF, tomorrow, Saturday, the 2nd of November 2024, he stated. Fagbemi further instructed the DPPF to make preparations to appeal to the court for a revised, sooner hearing date. "I have directed the DPPF to immediately put machinery in motion for consideration of the court to bring the adjournment date forward," he added. At the Federal High Court in Abuja, some minors, who were arraigned over the end bad governance protest, collapsed in the courtroom, with many appearing visibly malnourished following their 3 months of incarceration. Following their arraignment, the court granted each minor 10 million naira bail. Peter Obi, former Anambra State Governor and presidential candidate of Labour Party in the last general elections in Nigeria, in a statement on Friday said, "I just watched the disturbing and condemnable scenes captured in a circulating video, showing 124 protesters, among them minors, appearing in court today as part of efforts to secure the enforcement of their fundamental rights. The footage reveals minors, some so weak that they could barely stand, others fainting from sheer exhaustion and lack of nourishment. These children appeared visibly malnourished and starved, a condition that should alarm the conscience of every citizen in our nation. From their look, they were poorly handled despite being in the custody of the federal government of Nigeria. The offense being alleged against these suspects, including minors, is protesting against bad governance that was directly affecting their livelihood and which our constitution under a democratic dispensation guarantees them. Curiously, most of the people in government today leverage this aspect of the constitution standing as champions of good governance while in opposition. Moreover, our status presumes that suspects deserve some dignity, even in a correctional home as human beings. The reason why we should all be concerned about a situation like this is because we are part of a global community where human dignity should be respected. May I appreciate the presiding lordship for halting the trial and saving the country further embarrassment it would have been to the world as a democratic nation. I would like to call on relevant authorities, especially the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of the Federation, the police, and the DSS, as well as the National Human Rights Commission, to thoroughly investigate such inhuman treatment of minors to avert such incidents in the future, Peter Obi said. Atiku Abubakar, former Vice President of Nigeria and the People's Democratic Party, PDP presidential candidate in the last concluded general elections in Nigeria, reacted on Friday by saying, a disturbing video of malnourished children being arraigned before a federal high court on the orders of the Bola Tinubu-led federal government has been brought to my notice. The horrible scene reminiscent of a Nazi concentration camp once again reflects the low premium the current government places on the lives of the vulnerable, especially children. For emphasis, Section 11 of the Child's Rights Act guarantees dignity of the child. It states that every child is entitled to respect for the dignity of his person, and accordingly, no child shall be a. subjected to physical, mental or emotional injury, abuse, neglect or maltreatment, including sexual abuse, b. subjected to torture, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. The children are being prosecuted for their alleged role in the end bad governance protests, which took place between August 1st and August 10, 2024. If they are just being arraigned 3 months later, one can only imagine the sort of dehumanizing conditions they have been subjected to and have been detained all this while. I find it reprehensible that a man who claims to have fought for Nigeria's democracy and led protests now demonizes those who decide to demonstrate against the effects of his harsh and draconian policies. Children who are the most affected by these policies have every right to protest peacefully, as guaranteed by the Constitution and the Child Rights Act. A nation can be assessed by the way it treats its most vulnerable citizens. It is saddening that even underage children are not spared from the wickedness of T-Pain. The disturbing condition under which the alleged accused children were brought to court projects the very justification for their participation in the protest in the first place, Atiku Abubakar stated. Amnesty International also in a statement on Friday said, the Nigerian authorities detained these minors unlawfully, putting them through horrifying experiences, for exercising their right to peaceful protest. Government must release them all, immediately and unconditionally.
Those that are not criminally liable under the law, those are the people, they are young ones below the age of 7. Once you are more than 7, you can be charged to court. The only thing is that you need to follow certain procedures to do that. But none of them is less than 7. I think the youngest should be 13. The fact that you are a 13-year-old doesn't mean you cannot be charged to court. So anybody, even in the Children and Young Persons Act, they can still charge you to court because you are 13-year-old. You can go to court. So we have charged them to court for this, On behalf of the federal government of Nigeria, the police has taken the bull by the horn, because these are those who actually are leveraged on the end bad governance protest. They hijacked the protest, and they are so violent. They are the people that are flying the Russian flags and many foreign flags, which of course is a punishable offense. So they are criminally liable. We have not charged any underage. In our own context here, the court, for those who have been following trends of engagement with social media influencers and content creators, we have been engaging them for a very long time. And even this department has made more than 3 or 4 statements concerning that, to condemn unlawful, unauthorized use of police uniform or accoutrement. Not only the police. You can't use any law enforcement uniform, the military, the police, can't use their uniform to act.
These boys that we brought to the court today, all of them are adults. Most of them are married men. None of them is a minor. Some of them are university graduates. The small kids you are seeing here, they came with some of their parents to come and greet their loved ones. They are not even the real suspect standing trial in this case. These boys were arrested in Kaduna and Zaria. Imagine the level we find ourselves now. Do you know how much it costs us to be at this level of a democracy in this country? These young boys are trying to destabilize Nigeria using the Russian flags and other countries, calling on the military to remove our president. Is it fair to even remove the state governors that they don't want democracy again? If you don't like democracy, are we forcing you? You go back home and sit. Everybody is enjoying their fundamental rights. Nobody is abusing their rights. Everybody is enjoying free movement, and everything's are moving fine in the country. These boys, only for no reason, they started protests, violent protests with the flags, foreign flags, Russian flags. Haba, is that what we want in this country? Don't mind the Defense Council. They will always say something to tarnish the name of Nigerian police. It's not true. In my own case, we filed charge against 43 defendants, and all of them were produced to the court today. All of them are adults. Forget about what they are telling you, that they are small children, this and that. Ask the Defense Council, do they truly know the suspect they are defending?
While we were in court this morning, and shortly before the plea of the defendants, mainly underage children, could be taken, some of them who were looking quite malnourished, who were looking quite very sick, started snapping in court before the Honorable Justice Egbetokun. Justice Egbetokun, upon seeing the fainting of these young persons of school age, had to had to stand down proceedings abruptly. We had to rush some of these young children to the clinic within the facility of the court for them to be resuscitated. Some of them are still receiving treatment as I speak to you in the clinic. These young persons has been arrested since the 2nd day of August, 2024.
No food.
Over 3 months.
No food.
They've been left without clothing, without housing, without proper care. They are looking very malnourished. As you can see the videos that are flying around social media.
You're informed that they are taking Gani only.
They were kept at the Kuje Correctional Center and at the IRT, the notorious IRT at SAS Abattoir. At SAS Abattoir. Now, this is the facility that has held our young children that are being kept by this government over allegations of attempting to overthrow the president. The question now comes to, how can a 12, 13, 14-year-old boy who is looking very frail and malnourished attempt to overthrow the president? That is a matter for another day. But we have filed an application contesting and challenging the powers of the courts to try these young persons. And this objection is founded on very solid foundation. The Constitution of Nigeria in Section 18 vests on the government the responsibility of educating young persons. The Universal Basic Education Act and the Children and Young Persons Act vest upon the government the duty to educate its younger ones. Section 2 of the UBEC Act mandates the government to provide education for its young persons, free compulsory education for all young persons. Unfortunately, young Nigerians have been arraigned in court today on a 10-count charge of an attempt to overthrow and overhaul the government of Nigeria. They have been granted bail. We will strive hard to meet the bail conditions if we can. The conditions are quite neck-breaking. It is like giving bail with the right hand and taking with the left hand. We will strive and do our best to perfect these conditions. But if we cannot meet those conditions, we will come back to the courts and seek for a variation. Because we have shown that these are young persons who are hungry. The essence of the protest of August 2nd is to end hunger in the land. And we saw them in court today, looking quite malnourished. The problem persists, but we'll come back.
Why should they spend 93 days in police custody when they should be in school? And the government can arrest 10, 12, 13-year-olds and keep them in custody for 93 days. But the government has not been able to arrest the Abelo 6 months after. Is it not a parody of some sort that we have two separate countries? One country for the rich, one country for the poor. Our laws are very clear. It's 48 hours. The police are in breach of the fundamental rights of these children. So we are not going to delve into the substance of the issue, which is already before the court, so that we will not make remarks that are sub judice. But what we are saying, very simple. Yaya Bello, 6 months later, has not been arrested. But you arrest our children. You keep them in custody for 93 days. These children, they are already looking like they have kwashoko. They are malnourished. You understand? Then you cannot keep them in custody for this long. This is the reasons why our rating in the Human Rights Index is poor, is bad. You understand? The Tinubu government should discontinue the charge. We make a passionate appeal to the AGF, Baba Latif Fagbemi, that he should discontinue the charge. He should take over the matter and discontinue against these children, so that the children can return back to school. And the Attorney General of the Federation has the inherent powers to take over this matter under Section 174 of the Constitution. That Baba Latif Fagbemi should take over.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.